Joining me now is Florida Congressman Greg Steube. Congressman, good to see you. Thanks very much for being here.
Yeah, good to see you.
What can you tell us about this as a member of the weaponization of the federal government select subcommittee?
Well, it's about time. Americans have waited for this for a long time. We saw the Russia collusion hoax, the complete compromise of the deep state. That was all under Comey's leadership. I believe because of all of those things that we now know, they used the intelligence apparatus of our federal government to perpetrate a fraud upon the American people, that the Trump campaign was colluding and conspiring with Russia. In my opinion, he should be charged with treason. But obviously, the DOJ doesn't want to go that far. They found something that they can charge him with. He obviously lied to Congress because he knew either he's lying or McCabe is lying. And obviously, they have evidence from either communications or something that it's a basis of this grand jury indictment. It is a long time coming where the American people want to see justice of all of the brokenness of our federal government over the last decade.
So what would this mean then for Comey if they were to charge him with lying under oath?
Well, look what happened to Peter Navarro. I mean, it'd be a similar. It'd be wrong if Peter Navarro goes to prison and Comey doesn't go to prison for the same crime. So I would imagine that D.C. jurisdiction is going to go along that same type of time frame, the same type of punishment. Obviously, he's going to have a right to defend himself. If he wants to take it to trial, they'll go to trial. But it'd be probably more beneficial for him to settle the case. But that's probably what they're looking at from a some type of punishment standpoint.
I mean, it is so extraordinary the way the Democrats have used the FBI and the DOJ against their political enemies for 10 years now.
Yeah. The FBI, the DOJ, and the intelligence apparatus. Remember,
yes, that's right.
Those surveillance warrants were through the FISA court. So they used a secret court to get warrants to spy on the Trump campaign. And then Comey and Brennan and those guys used the intelligence apparatus to beef up what they knew was false. They knew that those dossiers were false. They were promulgated by the Clinton campaign, all to perpetrate a fraud on the Trump campaign and perpetrate a fraud on the American people. And then the mainstream media ran with it for years. For years, even if you poll Democrats today, they will tell you 30% of them will say that they believe that Trump conspired with Russia in the 2020 election. It's completely and absolutely false.
It's just extraordinary, Congressman, truly extraordinary. I mean, this is the biggest scandal that anyone has ever seen, followed by the Joe Biden mental capacity scandal and the auto pen use. But let me move on to the issue at hand, and that is this government shutdown. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries is demanding what he's calling an ironclad health care agreement as tensions escalate ahead of a potential shutdown at midnight on Tuesday, September 30th. Where do you think this is going? The White House Budget Office sent a memo to federal agencies on Wednesday telling them to prepare layoff plans in the event of a shutdown. And those layoffs would target employees working in programs, obviously, that are not legally required to continue during a government shutdown. But look what you have in the Journal this morning. One of the top stories, White House to pursue mass firings if government shuts down. What are your expectations?
Well, and the Trump administration has the authority to do that because they have to take extraordinary measures to protect the government because the government shut down. Why does Hakeem Jeffries have any influence whatsoever on what's going to happen in this shutdown? We passed a bill in the House. It passed largely along party lines. There was one Democrat that voted to put the CR out and send it to the Senate. And why are we giving Chuck Schumer power? I mean, one of the things that I would call on Thune, they just did away with the 60-vote threshold for judges. Why don't we do it for CRs? Why doesn't the Senate do it for keeping the government open? That's the most basic functions of government. There's a bill that passed the House, has gone to the Senate. Why should Chuck Schumer determine and negotiate what happens to the American people when we have the majority? When they voted on it, the majority of the Senate voted to pass the CR and send it to President Trump's desk. So why are we allowing Schumer to dictate what type of policy should or should not be in a bill? They want $1 trillion in more spending. They want to extend tax credits that don't expire until the end of the year, that haven't passed Congress, and they're using the government shutdown as leverage. This will be a Schumer shutdown if this doesn't pass. The Republicans passed it in the House. The majority of the Senate passed it, and because they couldn't get the 60-vote threshold, it is Chuck Schumer's responsibility and fault that this hasn't passed the Senate.
Well, it seems like a shutdown is more likely than not at this point. You've gotten your $150 billion in the Department of War and ICE deportations in the One Big Beautiful Bill. They want those subsidies back on health care that were flowing during COVID. All the while claiming to want to get back to pre-COVID spending, and yet, look, they want to get pre-COVID spending again. But look, let me move on to what happened this week at the UN. I want to get your take on this because President Trump says the Secret Service is investigating what he is calling triple sabotage after his time at the United Nations on Tuesday. The president wants answers after the escalator stopped as soon as he and the First Lady stepped on it. Look how great Melania was. She is unfazed. She walks on it. It stops. She turns around to the president, and she just leads the president up and walks. So she was unfazed by it. But this could have been a massive issue. And you know, the president being frozen there in one place makes him vulnerable. Later the same morning, the teleprompter goes dark in the middle of his speeches. And then, you know, in the middle of his address, rather. And then the president also said that the sound was off during his remarks, and only the people with interpreters speaking into earpieces could actually hear his address. The UN reports that they ordered a thorough investigation and are, quote, ready to cooperate in full transparency with relevant U.S. authorities. Congressman, do you know if we're going to get answers on this?
I surely hope so. And if the Secret Service has opened up an investigation and the UN's doing an investigation, obviously all of those things could not be a coincidence. And thankfully, the First Lady and the President had their hands on the rail as they were going up the escalator, or you likely would have fallen down and injured themselves. It seems to be intentional. Let's hope it wasn't. But it seems to be that was the case. Look, nothing's worked at the UN. I don't know why we're still part of the UN. The President has been able to do the job of the UN since he's been president in negotiating all of these peace deals.
Unbelievable. Congressman, we're going to be watching your work, of course. We so appreciate your time this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Greg Steube.